Hi everyone, it's Rax. I just got done streaming for about a 20-hour opener for Diablo 4 Season 5. And just like we've done for the other seasons, let's go over the state of the game. In general, Season 5 has been one of Blizzard's better seasons. There's a lot of things working here. While there's a lot of looming issues with the game that Season 5 hasn't directly solved, I think the direction of the game is improving, and this is the first time I've ever made this video where I think there's more good that came with this season than bad. So let's get into it. First of all, I think the class balance here is better than it ever has been, and that's, of course, mainly due to the massive nerfs of barbs and then bringing the other classes up, even though it might end up that barbs are still the best. Everything feels a little bit more equal now, so they've done a nice job over the last year of kind of bridging that gap as we head into the expansion. Their new direction for uniques and legendary powers, if you haven't been following what they're doing, they're getting a lot more crazy. For example, my axial conduit chain lightning pants was literally, as I was running through the dungeons, it was just chain deleting every single room once I had it built up correctly. It makes the game a lot more fun. This was the first season I've ever played where I actually stopped what I was doing, leveling up, in order to go target farm a specific unique. I have never done that ever. And I played quite a bit today. I played on the hardcore race. I died at 52, and then I got a 100 rogue on softcore, or a 100 sorcerer, excuse me, and now I have a 60 rogue. So I played a lot, but there were multiple times where I actually stopped what I was doing to go hunt a specific unique or power that made me significantly stronger. If the items that you make are so good that I will actually interrupt what I'm doing to go do that, it means that you've done something well. And I believe it was Adam Jackson. I was having a conversation with him on Discord, and he said that this is the future direction that Blizzard is going in. I think that's a good thing for the game. Actually, stuff that you want to hunt for. The seasonal quest was way better than I thought it was going to be. I thought this was going to be, I'll be honest with you, I thought it was going to be terrible. I'm not a lore guy. I don't really care about that kind of stuff. But they added the hell breaches, which were the kind of the mini dungeons plunging into hell. They were more fun than I thought they were going to be. And they were pretty rewarding too. And actually, the beginning part of the season quest I thought was way better than the end part. We were like following around the sky, and I don't want to give any spoilers, but he was doing some actually really crazy demonic things. And the ways that it kind of took you deeper and deeper and deeper, it actually kind of felt like we were part of this crazy ritual and diving into hell and summoning the Fell Council or whatever. Um, I thought they did a really good job about that, and I usually don't care about that stuff at all. I thought it's actually a lot better than the actual final product, the Infernal Hordes that we're seeing, where we're just kind of standing in a red room, lore-wise. So I think people that really dig the lore and the quests are gonna love that part. It was a really nice job, actually. I'd say it's like the best job that they've done with that stuff since the vampire season. The Infernal Hordes are significantly better than from the PTR. They have crazy density. The ways that you acquire the Aether feel a lot more fair. The Fell Council's health has been significantly reduced, but it still feels like a fight. Seems tuned pretty well. They drop items. The way that you get the rewards is significantly better. Just improvements all around. Um, I I'm surprised. It was in such a bad state in the PTR. I didn't think they were going to make this pretty fun or competitive, but I actually found myself doing some nightmare dungeons and doing some infernal hordes. I haven't crunched the math on it yet in a spreadsheet, but I actually think the infernal hordes might actually pay you higher XP than the nightmare dungeons. And I also think something weird is going on with XP in general, because it took me 10 hours to level my sorcerer. And while, I mean, that was pretty fast relative to everybody else, in the grand scheme of things, I thought I was going to be able to level it a lot faster. But the XP was supposed to be higher this season because the base monster XP was increased to 30. So it should have just been significantly faster than what I was expecting and not way slower. So something weird is going on there. I don't know what it is, but I'm sure I'll get to the bottom of it. Along those lines, when we're talking about different end game activities that we're running, I noticed something, and I never saw this in the patch notes. You know how when you do a dungeon in Diablo 4, you have this beginning part, and then you have that middle room where it's like, press 4 levers, or it says, slay the monsters for 30 seconds, or something like that? Those rooms are gone. Don't think I saw a single one the entire day. They just removed them, the middle dungeon events. I don't remember seeing that in a patch note, or if it was there, I missed it. But my God, that makes the dungeons so much better to run. God, I can't do another one of those press 2 lever things. And by the way, a lot of people don't know when you did those 30-second rooms where you're standing there just slaying monsters, you don't get any XP, none. So the optimal way to play it is just stand in the corner and do nothing and wait for the timer to run out and then just run out the door. So I don't know if that was intended or if it was in the patch notes or I missed it, but God, that makes it feel way better. They brought back the reputation from the previous season with the Iron Wolves. Felt really good to be working through it. They locked some of it behind quests and stuff. There's 2 different paths. There's one for the season, and there's the season journey, and then there's the reputation. Both of them together, opening them through as you were progressing through, felt really good. And you got a lot of pretty good rewards that seemed to kind of level up with you pretty well. It seemed to be calculating correctly. I felt like for the amount of time that I was playing, I was getting the right amount of rewards. So whoever's doing the math on that, we need you doing more math stuff because it was a pretty good pace. The world bosses are actual bosses. For the first time since the start of the game, I had people messaging me on my sorcerer saying, "Rax, come help me kill my world boss. My team is struggling." Again, I don't know if it's absolutely perfect, but it felt much closer to the right answer than what we had before with the stupid one-shots where you just do nothing and world bosses were a joke. Now, if we can get some better mechanics to it and spice it up a little bit, we might have a really fun event to do. But I've been going to every world boss, mostly just because it's fun. I don't really even care what they drop for me. The boss resummon thing is critical. Remember how I told you I was actually stopping my leveling journey and I went to go kill some bosses to try to get some gear that I needed? My God, dude. Killing Grigor and then just going to the altar and summoning him again, that was a lifesaver. We absolutely need stuff like that. Thank God. One thing that I was not going to add into this list, but one thing that by the way, my chat helped me with this entire list, so thank you for everybody who was there. I should have mentioned that at the beginning. One thing that the chat was saying was a big win were the battle pass rewards. So when you pay for the battle pass, you get much better stuff than in previous seasons. And I was honestly thinking, God, we don't want to put this in a video, do we? We don't want to say hey, we can pay for better stuff. But then I opened it and I looked through what the battle pass actually gives you, and they actually give you some really cool stuff. They give you this ethereal lightning pony, and they give you a bunch of really cool weapon and armor transmogs, and it definitely seems like it's a tier higher than anything else that they've given us in the game. So the people who regularly purchase the battle pass feel like they're getting way more for their buck nowadays. So I guess Blizzard props on the better cosmetics there. Being able to use your potion while CC'd. I mean, sometimes in those infernal hordes, it spawns millions of elites. The only reason that I survived a lot of them is because I could potion while I was crowd controlled. So already seeing benefits from that on the first day. Groups were super happy that they can get the full rewards in the pit. Blizzard had a smooth launch. They said the pre-download was going to start 1 hour early. It started 1 hour early. And then the season started exactly on time, 1 hour later. I never disconnected one time, and I was never really lagging. Some people did complain about a little bit of lag, but in general, it was pretty smooth. I give you props for that. And there's new combat text options in the game that people really liked as well. So there's a lot of core things here that are looking pretty good, much better than Blizzard has done in some of the most recent seasons, giving me a little bit more confidence going into the expansion. But of course, there are things that still need improvement. Some of them are more major than the others. Um, so, one very interesting thing is when you kill the curator, which is the first capstone, they give you a World Tier 3 Nightmare Dungeon key. Okay, fine. Then you go do Nightmare Dungeons. Right. Then you kill Elias to go to World Tier 4. And guess what Elias drops? He drops a World Tier 3 Nightmare Dungeon key. You don't know what that does for you? Nothing. So you salvage the key, and then you say, wait, I can't go do Nightmare Dungeons. And you say, all right, well, let me go see if I can craft a Nightmare Dungeon sigil. You can't, because you won't have enough dust, unless you farmed for 1 million levels in World Tier 3, which probably nobody does, because the capstone is so easy now, if you temper. So I had 30 dust out of 50. So then you go complete a World Tier 4 Tree of Whispers, which is not easy to do, but you struggle through it. You turn that in, and guess what you get? No Nightmare Dungeon key, and you get about 5 dust. So you got to do 3 more of those for 4 in total just to start doing Nightmare Dungeons. The reason why I'm explaining all this is it's a big problem. Every character that I make, well, luckily now I banked up so much sigil dust, I can just bypass this problem. People that want to jump into Nightmare Dungeons can't. So please, when Elias dies, don't give us a World Tier 3 key. That doesn't help. Give us a World Tier 4 key. Another thing that got broken in the PTRs, and I think that they said that they fixed it, but it's not fixed, is you cannot leave dungeon in cellars. This is bad, because when you beat a cellar, it's way better to leave the dungeon. It ports you outside the door, and then you can keep doing whatever you were doing. You're probably doing Helltide, and you keep going where you were. Well, now you have to walk back to the door, which you say, okay, well, that only loses you a few seconds. Yeah, it loses you a few seconds, but it's annoying, because we used to be able to leave dungeon, and now we can't. So that's broken. One big problem that a lot of people are having, and this is something that Blizzard has kind of solved with other things, but not with Glyph XP, is the only place that you can get this is in Nightmare Dungeons. So people keep asking me, Rax, what's the better way to level up? The Infernal Hordes, the new thing? Or should I do Nightmare Dungeons? Or should I do Helltide with the mine cages? Well, I think my answer in a vacuum, only talking about how to get the most XP, is probably the Infernal Hordes if you do it correctly and just blast. But that wouldn't be my recommendation practically for anybody, because you have to do Nightmare Dungeons in order to get your Glyph XP. There is no other way to get it. You must level your glyphs or your character is going to be shit. So, I mean, the answer is, even with the new cool thing with a lot of XP and rewards, it's still to go do Nightmare Dungeons. Blizzard has kind of implemented the buddy system in a lot of the different game modes, trying to give you some options on how you can acquire certain things. Well, if you want to continue with that mantra, we need to find a way. Is there a way that we can get our Glyph XP by not only doing Nightmare Dungeons? Because then people would actually have some options in how they level up. One thing I want to bring up, and I'm pretty famous for this in Diablo, is for hating this affix, and that's the Waller affix. But the reason why I wanted to specifically bring it up again and why I hate it so much is when I was playing the Chain Lightning Sorcerer, the Waller affix just instantly negates my entire build. Chain Lightnings just seem to hit the walls and then they just stop working. And I'm trying to work my Axial Conduit. I'm trying to manage my mana. There's a lot of elites on me. If one of them has Waller, I'm trying to do my nice little combo, it just ruins it. It just completely erases my DPS. And I hate that. I hate it more than anything. So I don't think Blizzard is going to get rid of Waller. I've been asking them to get rid of it in D3, and I told them not to put it in D4. They put it in D4, and I've been begging them to take it out of D4. They never will. For the love of God, can we at least get our spells, or at least stuff like Chain Lightning that's supposed to be bouncing off of walls, to not be negated by Waller at a minimum? It's just so infuriating. It made me want to play something else the moment that I saw the walls were interfering with my Chain Lightning. So one thing, and I might have this wrong, and I understand why this happens. I'm not like super mad about this, but my feedback is I think there were some things implemented into Diablo 4 Season 5 that were just not in the patch notes. I might be wrong. For example, I never read where the middle dungeon events were removed. And another thing about the patch notes, I haven't figured it out what it is, but I think something has changed with how we gain XP. And I know that it's supposed to be that we gain more XP for a higher differential, but I feel like there's something different about the XP that makes it slower for us. And I don't know what it is. I'm going to have to look into it deeper to figure out what it is, but I did not expect to spend 10 hours leveling today. And I don't think Blizzard expected me to spend 10 hours leveling today. I thought I was going to get done in maybe 6. So I need to go back and look. And I understand a lot of the obvious things people bring up about how we had anti-venom last time, and we had the Holy Bolt elixir, which makes you stronger. I understand all of those things. I get it. I can factor those things in. I still don't think that takes us from like a 6-hour estimate to 10. So there might be some things that got into the game that maybe didn't make the patch notes. Either that, or I need to be better at reading. And in the future, if that did happen, I would love it if you would put them in the patch notes. Another thing, it becomes more of a problem season after season, is conduit pylons. So a pylon is supposed to be an exciting moment where you click it and you get some power and you do some cool stuff for a little bit, and then it goes away. Well, conduit pylons are good for when you're like the first day when your character absolutely sucks. But usually, if you have a fully built character, a conduit pylon just nerfs you. It does less damage and you just move way slower. And it's also got this really clunky movement. I think this pylon just needs a redo. It just needs a really, really big buff. And you could give it a really big buff because correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't even think you can get these in the pit. So if it's not going to break anything in the pit, I guess one thing is their Ahavarion gives you random power. Maybe if Ahavarion gives you the crazy conduit, you gotta work around that if that's how it works. But in general, conduit pylons, whenever I see them, I don't want to click them. So then the obvious thing is, well, Rax, why don't you just not click them? You want to know why I click them? It's because I want to see if it's a cursed shrine. If it's a cursed shrine, it's worth clicking. If it isn't a cursed shrine, I'm just doomed to do the conduit, because unless somebody knows something that I don't, you can't cancel the conduit once you've triggered it. So you're bouncing around as a slow ball of lightning, doing half the damage that you would do if you would just play your build. Conduit pylons suck. The other pylons are fine, is what I'm saying. So to talk about some things that we talk about every season, we talk about loot filters all the time. And in season 4, when they said, we don't really think that loot filters are really needed, I said, okay, that's fair. The greater affixes kind of point out the really good items, da-da-da-da-da. You're doing that also with the mythic uniques, and you pick up the uniques anyway, so that's fine. But I really feel like the loot is starting to pile up. Like I feel like I'm starting to fill up my inventory with yellows and blues and tons of legendaries way more often. And in the beginning of the season, when you're very poor and you don't have any gold and you don't have any materials, you're fine picking up an entire inventory of it and chain salvaging it, da 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 da, build up your bank. But after you play for a little bit, I find myself still wanting a loot filter where I can say, uh, only show me a legendary where it upgrades my codex. Otherwise, only show me a legendary if it has a greater affix. And it would be amazing if I could even pick these are the greater affixes that I'm looking for on these pieces and stuff like that. I could go on forever explaining what I wanted a loot filter. But I think this would be a value add. I think it would be a value add to the game. I think it would make a lot of people happy. I hope Blizzard is considering this. Same thing with loadouts. I think you must add this into the game. I want to play Chain Lightning and Fireball, and I would like to also play Lightning Spear, maybe Firebolt as well. Maybe I'll even try Frozen Orb. I'm legitimately might build all of these in the endgame. Well, my choices are just keep respecking over and over and over the same sorcerer. I'm not going to do that. This is what probably a more casual person would have to do if they'd want to make more than one build. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to level up another sorcerer. Have one of them be a Chain Lightning sorcerer and one of them being a Fireball sorcerer. It's just very, very low quality of life. When you first introduced the game and you said you wanted the choices to really matter, so loadouts weren't in the game, fine. We're going to go like the old school Diablo 2 style, but that's not what the game has become. The game has become very high quality of life, make a lot of builds, whatever you have drop for you is supposed to switch to that build. Well, loadouts let us save our old build while switching so we can try both of them. I had some people say, I tried Chain Lightning and I switched to Fireball and I loved it. So I'm staying Fireball. I had some people say, I started Chain Lightning, I switched to Fireball and I hate it and I wish I was Chain Lightning. Well, with loadouts, you press one button and you'd be back. I think this should be a super high priority for Blizzard. The end game, still looking for really tough challenges. Seems like we have really good builds. Still looking for very meaningful challenges in the end game. Yes, we can push the pit. Okay. World bosses are more fun. I wouldn't say they're super challenging. I mean, we killed every world boss that we fought today, so they still die, but they're fun. So you did a good job there. The Ubers die very, very easily. I think they're already dying on day one. So, looking for more endgame stuff, and I think level 8 of the Infernal Hordes will be challenging. I think you've done a good job there. I cleared level 3. I tried level 4, and the damage that I took was substantially higher than 3. It was a huge difference. So I can only imagine that 5, 6, 7, and 8 are actually going to be challenging. So we got a little bit of a challenge there, so that's good. It's stuff like that. And the connectedness of PoE. I've talked about this a million times. The Gotta Catch 'em All Atlas system that connects to a new Atlas tree that customizes your endgame and their boss ladder. I think it all works very, very well. Sometimes people hear this and say, oh my God, Rex, if I hear you say for Blizzard to make Diablo PoE, first of all, Blizzard is not going to make Diablo PoE. That's not the intention of the game. And I'm not asking them to make it PoE. I'm asking them to consider some concepts and some structures about the end game that they have and implement them in a Diablo way, which honestly just means in a simpler way. But it would still feel great and work great in a much simpler environment. That's what I'm saying, not telling them to make PoE. PoE is PoE, Diablo is Diablo, the other RPGs are what they are. Okay? Tempering is it's really infuriating. Like, I'm re-rolling my gear, leveling up, and you hit damage to crowd controlled like 4 times in a row, and you're you're flipping a 50-50. You'll take the percent damage or whichever one you want, close or distant. And then, so you want, let's say, damage and distant, and you're flipping a 50-50 4 times, you're guaranteed to get close and crowd controlled over and over and over. It's just unbelievable how often it happens. Then it bricks your item and you don't have another item to replace it with. It's crazy, man. I know that Blizzard has said that they're working on something. I can't wait to see what it is. The tempering system, it kind of works. Like, it serves the purpose that it's supposed to serve in the game, although it's way too strong early game. But that's really here nor there. It doesn't really matter. But it's just not a fun mechanic. When you win, you feel like, finally, God, that should have happened the first time. And when you lose, I mean, you want to punt your cat off of your deck. So, yeah, I don't know. I can't wait to see what they're going to do with this. And then all the social systems in the game need a massive improvement. Trading. I believe that I asked Brent in the interview in Seattle about the expansion if they're thinking about having an auction house, and they said at this time no. So that was a big bummer. Clans and group finders and anything social in Diablo 4 is really, really lacking, including the external social things like there's no ladder, there's no race for anything, there's no community events. I have 1,000 ideas on really cool stuff that Diablo could do, and I think Diablo should do them. So I hope that they're looking at the social systems, not just in the game, but externally, especially with the expansion coming up. God, there's so much we could do, and it feels like we're doing none of it. So anyway, wanted to put this section in here. A lot of this stuff is general things, and maybe I'll find more things to complain about. Some things that people were complaining about on day one was their gold. They kept running out of gold, but I see that the Infernal Horde lets you get more gold, and there's other things. But in general, the direction here for me is positive. Considering 2 seasons ago, we were still picking up endless yellows, and all of the uniques sucked, and all of the legendaries sucked. They're all like 10 attack speed, 10% damage. To where we are today, it's a significant improvement. So I don't know if they have their internal affairs in order. I don't know if they have their team more solidified. But it's looking better. So keep doing what you're doing, Blizzard. If you need any help from any of the content creators or any of the community, reach out to us. Doing a good job, and I'd love to see more of it. Thank you.